In today's video, I'm sharing a brand new type of Simon Hurley paste, an adorable berry-themed Valentine's Day collection with stamps and dies from Ranger, and finishing it off strong with a collection from Spellbinders that works great for Valentine's Day and all year round. Hey friends, it's Simon Hurley and welcome to another video. Happy New Year and buckle in, we've got a lot to share with you. With a new medium and two brand new Valentine's Day launches with a ton of different designs, there's definitely something you're going to fall in love with. As we go throughout the video, I'll share new products and then I'll share how to create with them and create some really stunning card projects. The ideas that I share in this video are just the tip of the iceberg, but I'll be sharing tons more in future videos of how to use these products super creatively. Everything I use is available right now and I'll leave links down below where you can check it all out, and using those links helps support me, so I really appreciate it. Now without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start off today's video and the new year strong by introducing a brand new paste for the Simon Hurley line. But to do this, we're gonna need to take a little walk down memory lane. So it all started a couple years ago when we launched Lunar paste, which was a super creamy metallic paste that is filled with colorful mica. And this now comes in a bunch of colors. But what was really important to me about this paste is that it was thick enough, but also not too thick. We really walked the line on the perfect creamy, buttery consistency to still capture all of the amazing texture through stencils, and as you put it on your projects, you can get as much texture as you want, but it's not too thick where it's difficult to spread through stencils, which was so important to me. And really, you and me fell in love with this formula as crafters. And what's so cool about making these with Ranger is we make them in the US, in our own lab and our manufacturing facility, so we can really control the formula and how it comes out every single time. And so there's a lot of other texture pastes on the market, but that formula consistency was really important to me. So as we started introducing new pastes, like solar paste, having that same creamy, buttery consistency was super important to me. And the solar paste is different because this has kind of a shifting mica, and it's more meant for techniques. And then when we jumped into the glitter paste realm with Astro paste, again, that formula of making sure that it was still super creamy and smooth and not gelatinous was so important for me. And I think we really nailed all of these amazing formulas so that when you jump into a new Simon Hurley paste, you know it's gonna still have that same creamy consistency, but have lots of different uses with all the different types that we have. And all the pastes we've released thus far are so incredibly gorgeous. With their metallic shine and their sparkling glitter, they're incredible. But I wanted something a little bit more basic in the line as well. So, introducing the brand new Simon Hurley Stellar Paste. And these Stellar pastes so far come in Crystal Clear, White Lie, and Black Widow. And we called them Stellar Paste because they're kind of the basic in the line. Just like the Stellar Inks, these are going to be your go-to basics for almost all of your card making projects when you want a nice simple and creamy texture paste for your projects. And all three of these pastes have that same creamy consistency, so they're really easy to spread on your project, but still get all of the incredible texture that you want to, that you know and love with Simon Hurley pastes. And I will say, Crystal Clear starts out kind of this white color, but will transform into a clear once it dries. It's similar to Astro paste in that way, where inside of the jar it looks a little bit more creamy, and then it'll dry completely clear. We do that because if you use a clear base already before it's dry, sometimes it can feel too gelatinous, and we wanted to keep this, again, that same super smooth texture, so that's why it starts out that more creamy color. Bringing in the swatches to look at these colors closer, another thing that really sets these apart besides the formula is that all of these pastes are a high gloss formula. So they're gonna give you a super high gloss look, almost like these colors are enameled onto your cardstock, which I think is just stunning. There are several other white and black texture pastes in the Ranger line especially that are more matte and can be inked over top of and will take all the ink, whereas these are that high gloss, so they're going to resist any of your inks for some really great technique purposes. So I really love that high gloss look that these have. Here is a look at Crystal Clear once it's dry. You can see it goes completely clear like I had mentioned. It looks really great on top of ink and highlights that nicely, or it can go really nice and clear on your white cardstock for some techniques or a really subtle look. White Lie is in the center here, again, that really nice high gloss shine, and it looks beautiful on that black cardstock, that really nice vibrant white color. And then we have Black Widow, which is this really really nice jet black glossy paste. And you might be asking yourself, why do I need a black paste if I can take my Black Widow reinker and put it in a white paste? But the reality is that black and getting this jet black of a color is very difficult to do. And by the time you would end up getting your paste black by putting a reinker into it, you've then liquefied your paste way too much. So having a jet black Black Widow paste is going to be super incredible. And just look how intense of a black we were able to create that. I'm obsessed with it. So there's a closer look at them all swatched up. And again, these stellar pastes will be kind of the basic in your collection, the standard in your toolbox that you'll be using on many different cards. And I'll be showing these as we create some cards as I show the rest of the products as well, so you'll be seeing them more throughout today's video. Next, let's move into some of the stamps and stencils that I'm launching with Ranger. And by the way, some of the artwork throughout today's launch is licensed, which means we pay talented designers to use their work and formulate it into amazing stamps and stencils for all of you. Starting off, we have this 4x6 photopolymer stamp set called Berry Best. And this is going to be so amazing for Valentine's Day cards. So you have 3 different strawberries that have this kind of hand-drawn, sketched look to them. And then you have a large leaf that you can use along with the strawberries and a little flower. And then what's awesome about all of the outline images is if you don't love to color or watercolor those in, you then have different solid stamps that you can stamp right inside of those images to fill them in using your stellar inks. So that it's such a really great and easy way to color these images in. And then you have a couple different sentiments like "You're the Berry Best," "Thank you," "I love you," and "Very much," which you can use along with the other sentiments. And Spellbinders also released a coordinating die set that you can purchase separately that will cut out all of the outline images from this set. But what's so awesome is that I asked the Spellbinders team if we can make this die set even more versatile for you guys. Because when you're creating a die set that has outline images like this, you can also stack images inside of these and it'll be the exact same price for the die set because it goes by footprint of how much metal you're taking up. So if there's room inside of these, we can add images inside. So what we did is each one of these strawberries has a little detailed insert, as well as the leaf has an insert that you can add inside. And then we added some little accessories too, like little chocolate drips and drizzles and little stems you can use on top. So this then becomes an incredibly versatile die set because you get the outline images, but you also can use these completely separately without the stamp set altogether and create your own really realistic looking chocolate strawberries. And check out just how adorable these are. With those inserts, you're able to get that little dotted detail and these really great cut lines inside of the leaves. And then by adding the chocolate and the swirls, you get a whole new dimensional aspect to these strawberries that works perfect for Valentine's Day. And of course, if you wanted to leave the chocolate swirls off, they could just be normal strawberries too, but we wanted to include those as accessories. So for me, this is a no-brainer. You get an incredible die set you can use alone, and you can use it with the stamp set, or you can use the stamp set alone as well. To go along with that, you obviously need a background stamp to put your strawberries on, so we thought this dotted leaves background stamp is perfect. I love all of the incredible texture and detail that we were able to get with all of these little dots that work together to create this kind of branch motif in the background. So it almost looks like your strawberries would be sitting in a little strawberry bush. So cool, and we're really only able to achieve that amount of amazing detail with this red rubber stamp, and of course, red rubber is going to stamp absolutely beautifully and give you tons of detail and dimension in your image. But I'm just obsessed with all of the dotted texture, which really makes this dotted leaves background stamp incredibly interesting. And then also we have the Very Berry layering stencil, which is a 3-piece layering stencil that's going to layer up to create this really adorable background of strawberries as well. So much fun. So you can do all the strawberries in red, or you can do several different bright colors and really make this a super fun and playful background. And then of course you can bring in the sentiments from Very Berry or some of the strawberry stamps to make as a focal point on top of this background. So really everything in this Very Berry capsule collection goes super well together and will really work interchangeably. Okay, let's go in with the Very Berry layering stencil. There's 3 pieces to this layering stencil set, and let me show you a couple of easy ways to line up the designs so that every layer lines up on top of each other perfectly. The first way is to cut down my cardstock to the same size as the stencil, so you can line it up with the edges. So I've cut down my piece of Simon Hurley's dark white cardstock to 6 by 6 inches, which is the same size as the stencil. So then all I need to do is lay this down. It'll hit all of the edges. You can blend this down with your first layer of ink. then you'll lift it off, and then because the stencils are exactly the same size, all we need to do then is just line up that second stencil with all 4 corners of that piece of cardstock and blend on top of each other. And these stencils will line up perfectly on top of each other then. You just want to make sure that all of the stencils have this little etched mark. It says Berry 1, Berry 2, and Berry 3. You want to make sure that as you're using your stencils, that's in the same area and that you can read it every time. Then your stencil is going to line up perfectly on top of that cardstock. Now there's another way to do this if you want to use an A2 size piece of cardstock. So I'm going in with my Stark White cardstock in an A2 size, and then I'm going to go in with the Stampwheel 2.0. You could also use the Misty with a sticky mat. You just want anything with kind of a corner that you can easily line something up in. And I specifically like the Stampwheel 2.0 because it also has the sticky mat inside, so it's going to be really easy to stick your stencils down without using any tape as well. So then I can take my Stark White cardstock and I can line it up right into the stamp wheel. And because I want to hit kind of the center area of the stencil, I'm leaving a little bit of the room from the edge. Then I'm going to go in with my stencils, and I do want to note this is my new stencil material, which is a new upgraded stencil material that's been on the latest couple stencils we put out. What this means is that both sides are going to be glossy, so these are very durable and can stick down to your sticky mats without any problem. If you happen to be using a stencil from our Simon Hurley collection that doesn't have that new material marking on the back of it, one of the sides is glossy and one of the sides is more matte. You want to stick that glossy side down towards anything sticky. If you stick the matte side down towards anything sticky, it might peel off this coating a little bit, which doesn't affect the stencil, but it just affects how it looks. So we've changed that on these new stencils. So all of that to say, on these new stencils, it doesn't matter what side you stick down towards that sticky mat, and it'll be completely fine. But still, I like to make sure that I can read that etched marking that says Berry 1. And for this, I'm going to stick the corner of my stencil up in the corner of the Stampwheel 2.0, and then I'll use my fingers to stick the edges down into that sticky mat to hold it in place while we do our blending. And that corner is going to provide the area where it lines up in the same spot every time, even though our cardstock isn't the same size as the stencil. All right, so let's go in and stencil out these strawberries. So I'm starting off with my Stellar ink in the color Bee Sting, and I'm gonna go in with my Simon Hurley medium ink blending brush, pick up a little ink on that blending brush, and start our blending on the surface of our Stark White cardstock. I'm gonna start pretty light and then kind of build the color up as I go. Also, I'm gonna use several colors that aren't just red on this, because I want these berries to be really bright and playful, and it doesn't need to be super realistic because it's just a card after all. So I'm gonna go in a couple different areas on my card, maybe 3 different areas, and add this gorgeous red Bee Sting color down. And you can see just how well this color blends in place. The ink formula blends perfectly, and our blending brushes also make it so there's no harsh lines as we're adding our color down. Next, I'm gonna go in with my pink blending brush, and I'm using Stupid Cupid, which is this new kind of pinkish coral color, and I'll add that right next to the red in a couple of different areas to blend out a little pink onto this background. And that color looks gorgeous and blends together with Bee Sting so beautiful and smooth. Next, I'll go in with my yellow blending brush, and I'm gonna use a little bit of Shooting Star, which I guess isn't too far off from a real strawberry, because I think that they can have a little bit of yellow on some of them. So I'm gonna go in and blend this in with that pink and red, and again, blends in so smooth and beautifully. And when you overlap it with some of the pinks and reds, you also get like kind of an orangey color in between, which I think is beautiful and looks great with these colors. And then last, but definitely not least, we're going in with a little bit of Guppy, which is this kind of bright orange color, and we'll add that in some of the open areas to finish it off. And then I'll lift it right off the surface, and you can see nothing is peeling. That new stencil material is awesome. And we got our first beautiful layer for these berries all blended out. Next, let's go in with the second layer of the stencil. Again, you can read Berry 2 so you know it's in the right direction. And we'll stick that right up into the stamp wheel corner and then lay it down. And that's how you know, again, it's going to line up perfectly with your design. And then you can stick it right down into the edges to make sure it's nice and stuck down. All right, for the second layer, which is those berry stems, I'm gonna go in using 4, which is this kind of great darker leaf green color. And I'll go in using my medium green ink blending brush to blend this out. And it should be pretty easy to do. I just want a really nice dark and saturated coverage on top of those stems. And these medium blending brushes do a great job at getting a lot of coverage pretty fast. So this is nice and quick to do. All right, that's looking perfect. I like to just wipe off the excess ink, mainly to not get like fingerprints by touching the stencil, but of course you can clean it off more with water after. but that's why I do that. And then I'll peel this off and check that out. It's already starting to take shape and create a really great stencil background. And then last but not least, I'll go in with the Berry 3 stencil. You can see the etching in the bottom corner there. I'll stick it right into the corner. And again, lined up perfectly on our card, so we'll stick it down into place. Here, I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. I'm gonna go in using 4 on a smaller blending brush from Altenew. This is a little detail blending brush. And there's little stems, so we can go in and fill those stems in on the berries really easily with this little detail blending brush. It's able to get into those tiny little areas perfectly. I'm gonna go in with my black paste so I can get a nice shiny set of seeds on these. So for this, I'm gonna bring in the Black Widow Stellar paste, and I'm just going to use my palette knife from the paste tool set and just really take the tiniest amount of this paste and go in and do these little detailed areas with our palette knife. Trust me when I say a little bit goes a really long way with this. You can always add more if you want to, but it spreads smooth and seamlessly through this stencil, and it's gonna give those black seeds a nice glossy and dark rich finish. And by using the little tip of our palette knife, we're just keeping it away from the stems that we've already blended in with green. All right, we'll put any of the excess right back into the jar and seal that right off. And then we'll lift our stencil right off of our mat to reveal our gorgeous looking berries with those really great, nice solid black seeds. Then we can peel this off our sticky mat and you can see everything is lined up perfectly. That's why I love that trick of using the corner of your stamp wheel or your Misty to line those stencils up right on top of each other perfectly. We'll set this off to the side to let that paste dry. And then we'll go in with some water on our stencil and spray that paste down and wipe it off of the surface before anything dries completely. Now, like I said earlier, that black dye on there is really intense. So if you want to, you can even go in with some rubbing alcohol to help remove that. Looks like it already started drying on the stencil because it dries pretty quickly. So a little bit of rubbing alcohol will help clean off the rest so easily. And then it looks good as new. All right, and check out how stunning this is once it dries, and that black is really nice and intense and super glossy, which I think is super cool for these seeds. It really makes them stand out super nicely. All right, and here's a closer look at the finished card. I kept it super simple because I wanted those blended strawberries to really be the focal point of the card. So all I did was chop it down, add a little black border on either side, and finish it off with a heat emboss sentiment from the Berry Best stamp set that just simply says, "You're the very best." This is perfect for a friendship card, a thank you card, or even a Valentine's Day card. I think it's absolutely adorable like this. Now jumping into this Berry Best stamp set, I want to show you just how easy it is to stamp and then stamp the solid images to color for really quick cards. To ink up these outline images, I'm going to use Stellar ink in the Black Widow color, which is a really crisp jet black, and all it takes is just a couple really light taps to ink up the image completely. And then you can stamp it down onto your stark white cardstock, and it's going to give you a really crisp jet black stamped impression. And I love this because it dries super quickly too, so we can stamp all of our outline images from the set using this ink. Ever since this Black Widow ink launched, people have been ranting and raving about how jet black the actual color is and how great it is for stamping images like this. So I'm glad you guys have been loving it just as much as I have. I also love the Black Widow ink because just with a little bit of water, it cleans off of your stamps pretty easily with very minimal, if no staining at all, which I really love because most black inks tend to stain and this doesn't. All right, then I've pulled out the solid strawberry stamp and I'm gonna use a little bit of bee sting to ink this up. And again, light taps, and that's going to really ink it nice and solid. And I've just re-inked these, so they're a little juicy. And then I'm going to do Love Bomb, which is more of a maroon color. And I'm just going to lightly tap that at the top of the strawberry, which is gonna give it some depth and dimension at that one side. And then you'll just line it up right above the image. It'll line up perfectly, and you can give it some good pressure to fully stamp that strawberry in. And that's going to perfectly color the image in and give you a really gorgeous kind of ombre where you can see that Love Bomb is at the top and then it goes into that nice bee sting red color. I'm obsessed with how that turns out and just how easy it is to do with the Stellar inks to get a really solid impression. And again, go in with bee sting, really light taps to get that nice solid color, and then use a little bit more of that Love Bomb right at the top of that strawberry and kind of roll on that color. Stamp it down, give it a couple of seconds to sink in, and we've colored that in perfectly. Then for these little stems, it's pretty easy to just go in with one color because it's such a small area. So here I'm gonna go in with 4 and then line it up with the stem that it goes with and stamp it down. All right, so for this solid large leaf, I'm gonna go in with the 4 and tap that on. And then I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Ivy League. And this is going to be a much darker green, and we're just going to really lightly roll this onto one side. And then I'll stamp that down right over top of the image to get a really nice solid impression on there. And look at that. I love that blend of color, and it's stamped out beautifully. So if you really don't like watercolor or Copics, or you struggle with it, this is a really great way to stamp if you have a couple different colors of ink pads, and it's super easy and it looks really great in the end. To cut these images out easily, you're going to go into the Berry Best die set and find these kind of outline shapes. That's what's going to die cut out the images really nicely. And then you'll find the coordinating shape, line it up perfectly with an even white border all the way around the image, and then tape it down with mint tape to hold it in place. We'll run it through our die cutting machine. And I'll do this with all of the images that we stamped down. Then to cut these out, I'm going to use my little black Platinum Scout die cutting machine from Spellbinders, which I love because it's nice and compact for my desk, but it still has those metal rollers on the inside, so it's just as strong as your larger machines, and it's going to cut these out great. All right, then I'll place these in our die cutting machine, and it's got a nice long platform, and then we can run it right through. And we'll stare at each other awkwardly as we run it right through. At first, awkward die cutting was all fun and games, but this has really taken it to a whole new level of awkward. All right, then we'll pop these guys out, and they cut out perfectly with an even white border all the way around the images. It's kind of hot in there. To create a background for our strawberries, I'm going to use the Dotted Leaves background stamp, and we're going to do some tone-on-tone stamping. For this, I'm going to go in with Ivy League, which is a nice, dark, rich green color, and I'm going to ink up our background stamp by doing some light taps all across the surface of the image to ink it up nice and easily. Then I'll go in with a green piece of Color Wheel cardstock, going to place that right down into our stamp, and then we'll add some pressure on the back, and just to make sure that I don't get my fingers all in the ink, I just use a pressure tool and go all along the back side of our cardstock to stamp it down. And when we lift it up, check out how awesome that looks. These little dots that make up the image add so much interest and depth to this, rather than it just being solid leaves. I am in love with the result. And the tone-on-tone stamping will make it just interesting enough, but not take away from our strawberry images. If you guys know me, you'd know that I would never stop here. To finish off this background nice and simply, I'm going in with that same Ivy League ink and my green ink blending brush and blend in a little bit of darker color around the edge for some added depth and dimension. This helps give your card a really nice finished edge, but it will also draw your eye to the center of the card where the focal point will be by naturally making the edges darker and making the center the lightest part. That's going to be what your recipient naturally looks at. And here's what the background looks like all stamped and blended out. All right, then let's pull the card together. I'm bringing in a pre-cut and scored Simon Hurley stark white top folding card base, which makes it really easy to just fold and crease down, and you've got yourself a perfect card base. Then I'll adhere down our background with a little bit of a white border all the way around. All right, then I like to kind of decide a layout on the front and center of my card before I start securing things down. So I think I'm gonna do something like this with the berries kind of in the center in this cluster. And then I like these leaves to kind of be poking out from them to kind of ground them on the center of the card. So this is looking good, so I'll kind of start pulling out some of the images and just use a little bit of tape runner on the leaves to make those stick straight down onto the card. And then for the berries, I'll add some foam tape right on the back of them, and I'll kind of have them overlapping to create a really cute little cluster right in the center. And then to finish this off, one of my favorite things to add to my cards have been the Astro paste in the Phoenix Feather or Unicorn Horn color. The Unicorn Horn has like a bluish glitter, whereas Phoenix Feather is this warm tone glitter. And I think the warm tone glitter will go really great with these strawberries. So all I do when I want to add it on top of images like this to really embellish them is I just tap on a little bit of that glitter all over. A very little amount goes a super long way with this. So again, a super small amount, and tap it down all over your strawberries. And once that's dry, you pretty much can't see the glitter at all, but when you tilt it in the light, you get that really beautiful iridescent sparkle and shine. And the best part is, again, once it's dry, none of that glitter is coming off on your hands. So instead of adding glue on and like glittering your project because that falls off still, this is going to seal it to the project because of that base of the Astro paste in there. Then for the sentiment, I love that this set also includes thank you and very much, so that way, in case you don't want to make a Valentine's Day card, this can be perfect for any occasion thank you cards. So for this, I'm gonna stamp that first thank you in the Stellar Ink Black Widow color, and then we'll stamp that right down. And then I'm gonna do Very Much in red. So I'm using Bee Sting, and I love that all of the Stellar inks stamp well. So it's not just the black you can stamp your sentiments in. I've been having fun stamping sentiments in different colors that really match my project. And so I did Very Much on a separate one so that I can stamp it in a different color, but I can also get it closer to that top sentiment because you can kind of overlap it a little bit and get that really great look. Then I'll pop that sentiment up on the bottom to finish it off. And here's a closer look at that finished card using the very best stamp set and coloring those in with the solid stamps and Stellar inks. It looks absolutely stunning once it's finished, and I even love that phoenix feather glitter on top to finish it off. And that dotted leaves in the background is just absolutely perfect for a card like this. It looks like we're looking into a berry bush, and it gives so much texture and detail into the background. I'm obsessed with how this card turned out. Okay, now I want to dive into how to use this die set alone with these inserts to really create 3D looking chocolate covered strawberries. So when you do this, you're going to want to grab the strawberry that you want to use and the coordinating insert that would fit right inside of it. So I'll go in and pick out 2 of the strawberry shapes. And then I also want to do this leaf as well, and then that leaf insert. And then each one of the strawberry shapes has kind of a chocolate drizzle on the bottom that's going to fit it perfectly. So grab those out as well. And they also all have a unique stem shape that's going to fit perfectly on top of that strawberry. So let's talk about how to use these inserts. You're going to place your outline die straight down onto your work surface that you want to use. Then you're going to take your insert and place that textured side down right inside of that die. Then you're going to make sure that it's nice and lined up with an even border all the way around. And you're going to grab a piece of mint tape or whatever adhesive you have to secure these together for your die cutting. And so I'll do that same thing with the leaf and the other strawberries that I want to use. Just line them up inside of each other and then go in with your mint tape to hold it together. So I'll cut the strawberries out of red cardstock, and then I'll cut the leaf and stems out of green. And then run this right through to die cut it out. And then you can see with those inserts, instead of just cutting out the outline, it also adds details. So this large leaf has those like really cool cut details, and then these little stems have a bunch of little cut details into them as well. And then with the strawberries, you get these really cool kind of dotted details that make it look like seeds on the berries, which is so fun. Now to make the chocolate on these strawberries look real, I want to make it glossy, and that is where our new crystal clear paste comes in. So I'm going to go in and create kind of a milk chocolate. So I have some Spellbinders color wheel cardstock in brown, and I'm going to bring in the crystal clear stellar paste. So there's a couple ways you could go about this. You really could just go in with your finger if you want to and do kind of a lighter coating. This is going to dry a little bit faster, but you might see some kind of streaks in the gloss. But this is totally one option, and you'll just kind of get it as smooth as you can. And then once this dries again, that milkiness will completely go away and it'll go to a really nice clear gloss. The other way to do this, which is going to give you a little bit of a smoother effect, is going in with your palette knife from the paste tool set, adding a little bit of this paste down onto your surface, and then going in with the scraper from the paste tool set and just swiping this down. And this scraper is going to give it a much smoother effect. As you can see, there's a lot less streaks in that, but you can still get it nice and thin. So you don't need to apply a super thick layer of this. A thin layer is gonna go a really long way, and it'll still give you an amazing and immense amount of gloss. Then you can take any of the excess and put it right back into the jar for the next time you use it. All right, then here is what the cardstock looks like once it's all dry with that crystal clear stellar paste. You can see here's where I applied it with my finger, so you get a little bit more kind of lined texture, but that would still work. And then here is with the paste tool set, nice and smooth. This was pretty thin. I also applied it just slightly thicker, and you can see it's maybe just slightly shinier, and it'll just take a little bit longer to dry. So I'm gonna place that down and then go in with the 2 little dipped chocolates and then cut it out of that stellar pasted colored cardstock. All right, then I'll just poke this right out, and you can see that gives it the coolest, realistic looking chocolate dipped effect, which I think is awesome. And you can make any color of cardstock a glossy cardstock just like this. So it really expands the possibilities of what you can do with the cardstock in your collection. Because I know that some cardstocks you can buy already glossy, but this is cool because you can make it any color. I want to add a slight bit of depth while we put these together, so I'm going to go in with some Bee Sting Stellar ink and my detail blending brush from Altenew and just go in from kind of the side and top angle of this strawberry to give it a little bit of depth and dimension. It's really easy to do, but it's going to make it look shaded and give it a more realistic quality. All All right, then same thing for the leaves. I'm gonna go in using a little bit of 4 and a detailed blending brush and just go in from one side of the leaf. So here I'm going in on the bottom and just adding some shading and depth to the image. Putting these together is really simple. All you need is a little bit of liquid glue at the top and you just line up the stem onto the strawberry and it comes to life just like that. Same thing here, add it right up top, and it lines up perfectly with the outside edge of the strawberry. So you could totally use these strawberries as is, but this chocolate part is absolutely amazing. So I'm gonna go in and add a little bit of glue onto the back. And like I said, each strawberry has its own kind of chocolate dip that will line up perfectly with the edge and the shape of that strawberry. And I mean, come on, these almost look edible. I love that we included these inserts to use these dies by themselves. They really are so stunning and offer so much more versatility to this set. Now next up, we have a full Valentine's Day launch that I created with Spellbinders, with a beautiful embossing folder and some really great die sets that will work for Valentine's Day, but will also cover all year long because they're so incredibly versatile. So here we have a 3D embossing folder that's gonna be perfect for Valentine's Day called Puffy Hearts. And this creates the most amazing textured and dimensional, truly just puffy hearts that pop off the cardstock. The Spellbinders team always blows me away at how much amazing texture and dimension they're able to get inside of these 3D embossing folders to really give you the best backgrounds. So you can use the emboss side, or you can flip it over and use the deboss side for all different techniques. This embossing folder is absolutely amazing. And what's so awesome is you can also purchase a coordinating layered Puffy Heart stencil. So this is a 3-piece stencil set that perfectly layers over the 3D embossing folder to color in all of the hearts randomly across the background and give you this really beautiful look. But what's awesome is you can also use this stencil alone with no texture if you want to put pastes through it and really have fun with this design. So I love when we're able to create stencils for your embossing folders to make the designs even more versatile and easy for you to color in. So to create a really easy background just using this embossing folder, I'm gonna do something that I haven't tried quite yet. So I'm gonna use this scrapbook.com vellum that I have, which I really like because it's frosted, but not completely see-through, so you can still see color underneath it. And I'm gonna die cut this out using the nested postage and labels. If this one's retired, I'll find something similar to it, but I love these postage shapes because postage is really popular right now, and I think that edge adds a little bit of interest. So I'm just going to die cut this out of the vellum quickly. And then we have this perfect postage shape. And then I'm gonna bring in the Puffy Hearts embossing folder and I'm going to emboss the vellum, which is something that I've never done before, but I think it's gonna turn out really cool. So I'm gonna go in here and line this up with the hearts in an area that I want, kind of right in the center. And then I'll close this right down. And then for my Spellbinders 3D embossing folders, I'm gonna use the A platform base, then the embossing folder. And then lastly, I'll use the D adapter plate, place that on top and run this right through my die cutting machine. Now this is the sandwich for Spellbinders 3D embossing folders, but every company is a little bit different, so check your manufacturer for what kind of sandwich you should use. And I'm excited to see this. Once it's done, check that out. It gives you this really cool look and it almost like makes the areas where the paper was a little bit stressed kind of whiter and gives a super crisp embossed effect. That is super cool. But for the berries, I'll pop them front and center up on some foam tape, and then I'll put the sentiment right beneath it. Then for the vellum, I just put a tiny little bit of tape runner in all of the corners just to hold them down. And then I can put more tape runner underneath the areas that have the glue so that you won't see any of it. Then I'll glue this front and center down onto my cardstock. And you can see it sticks down really nicely, and that tape runner is just barely visible in the corners, but it helps to hold everything together. And here's a closer look at that finished card. I love how we used the Berry Best die set alone to create these realistic and fun chocolate strawberries with that stellar paste in the crystal clear color. And then finishing it off with the Puffy Hearts embossing folder on vellum was so cool. I've never used vellum before for embossing, so that's a first for me, and it looks amazing against a piece of colored cardstock. Next, let's dive into the Puffy Hearts embossing folder a little deeper by showing you just how easy it is to use along with the coordinating stencils. So since the Spellbinders folders are a little bit larger, I just take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of stark white cardstock and cut it in half, hamburger style, so that it's 5.5 by 8.5 inches. And whenever I do 3D embossing with cardstock, I like to just go in and take a spray bottle and just mist it 1 to 2 times on either side of the cardstock. This will soften it and get it ready to form to the design a little bit easier. If you notice your cardstock is cracking or ripping, try spraying it first. That definitely really helps it form to the design. And then you can place it right in here. And then again, we'll use a platform base, the embossing folder, and the D adapter plate right on top, and run it through to emboss our design. Look at all of that amazing texture and dimension. The hearts are truly puffy and they are absolutely gorgeous. Now let me show you just how easy it is to color this in with the stencils. I like to go in with a sticky mat. So I'm gonna use Altenew's large sticky mat. I keep it inside of this scrapbook.com bag so that it doesn't get any dust on it when I store it. And then we can place it down. And I like this because it has a grid mat on the back. That's the side you place down. And then you're gonna use the flat side for your sticky side where you put your cardstock. So I'll place my cardstock right down into my sticky mat. And then I'm gonna go in with the layered Puffy Hearts stencil set. Now this stencil set is made by Spellbinders, so it's a little bit different than my Ranger stencils, and I'll show you why. So of course, it has that same kind of material that's nice and durable on both sides, but with these, it's gonna have an etched number in the corners, so you'll see 1, 2, and 3, but it also has little corner etched markings on each side. That way, if you're especially using it without the embossing folder, that's gonna help you line it up on a piece of plain cardstock. Now with the embossing folder, you don't necessarily need to follow those because you just want to make sure it's aligned with the hearts and then place the edges down into the sticky mat. And then I'll go in with Bee Sting Stellar ink, and I love this sticky mat too because this will help grip the ink pad so you don't need to use 2 hands to make sure it's not moving around. And then I'll use my Simon Hurley medium ink blending brush and go in and just easily blend these hearts out. I'll tap off some of the excess ink to the side to make sure we don't oversaturate it. I love my Simon Hurley medium ink blending brushes because they cover a lot of surface area at once, so it's really easy to cover your whole background of hearts in no time. All right, and if you want to make these hearts look puffier like the name, I like to go in with a detail ink blending brush and that exact same color, and I'll just bring it right around the edge of those hearts, and that's just gonna make the center look lighter, so it'll add kind of implied dimension to the coloring as well. And you could use a darker color if you want, but I'm just going in with the exact same Bee Sting ink color and adding it on top of each other. These are translucent dye-based inks, so as you add more ink on top of each other, it just intensifies that color even more because you're building up the layers of color. Then once that's all complete, we'll go in and wipe off most of that color, and then we can lift the stencil off and check that out. You have perfectly colored in hearts kind of randomized throughout the background. All right, then we'll bring in stencil number 2, and then again, go in and just line up the hearts. All right, for this next layer, I'm going in with Prom Queen and my medium pink ink blending brush, and I'll just go through and blend out the background again. And I don't want Prom Queen to be too intense, so you can let some color off to the side. And also with this medium ink blending brush, with the handle being on top like this, you're really able to control exactly how much pressure you apply to get the designated color that you really want out of your ink pad. Whereas with handles off to the side, you have less control over that. So I really love this blending brush design for that reason. Now, if you don't want to spend all that time going around each heart making it look puffier like that, another way to add dimension is just going in and adding darker color to one side of each one of the hearts. So for this, since I'm not doing as much detail work, I can still go in with that medium ink blending brush and just pick up more color and add more pressure on your blending brush handle to really get that nice, dark, intense color on one side of each one of the hearts. This will still make it look 3D, but you won't have to go in and take nearly as much time to do it. So if you thought I was crazy earlier for highlighting each one individually, this is a much easier option that's still gonna give you tons of depth once you lift it off. I love showing you guys different options because the possibilities are really endless and you get different looks with each way you do it. All right, last but not least, we'll go in with stencil number 3, lay it down to line it up with the hearts. And then for this last layer, I'm gonna use 100% juice and my purple ink blending brush. And again, kind of start off with a little bit of a lighter layer of color, blending all the way around. And then we can go back in and do that same technique we did on those pink hearts to make them look puffy by adding some depth and dimension to one side of each one of the hearts. And I do it really randomly. There's really no rhyme or reason. Just take your blending brush and go in and blend it all out. Let's peel off that third stencil and check it out. You get a really beautiful blended background, and those hearts look so stunning and 3D once they're all colored in. Then to clean off my sticky mat, I just go in with a little bit of water, and I'm just going to wipe off any of the excess ink. You can see it's already quite stained, but once the water evaporates, it'll become nice and sticky and ready to use. All right, and here I think I've saved the best for last. This next part of the Spellbinders launch is so awesome because this is going to work great for Valentine's Day, but it's also going to work really well for all year round. We covered a lot of holidays with just a couple of die sets, and they're so unique and versatile. So this set is really what started it all. This is called Darling Dog, and this is going to be great for Valentine's Day cards. We have 2 different sentiment strips that say sending hugs and I love you, and then all different types of pieces that create dogs. So you can create them in whatever colors you want to look like yours or your recipient's dog. And some of the little pieces are different, like you get a couple different noses and different styles to make your dog unique. Then you also have different embellishments like an envelope with a heart on it and a little headband with hearts on it as well that you can dress your dogs up in. Now these are shown smaller on the packaging, but check out just how large these are. They're really going to be a great focal point that stands out on your A2 size cardstock. And for the life of me, I cannot find my sample with the black and white dog, but you'll just have to trust me, there's other accessories in this set as well. And then of course, because we did dogs, we couldn't leave all of you cat lovers out as well, so we decided to make the Congrats Cat set. You get sentiment strips that say congrats and celebrate, and you get the dies to create the actual cat itself, but then you have a lot of different options, like different shapes that will create stripes or spots. And again, you can really tailor your cat to whatever you or your recipient might have. And in this one for the accessories, we decided to include a graduation cap and a little martini glass so you can celebrate or do graduation cards. And I'm just in love with these samples, check it out. So I created a cat with a little graduation cap. Then we have the cat with the adorable martini glass. And then of course, this little black cat as well, which I thought was so cute. And of course, we couldn't leave out my favorite animal, which is a bear. So we wanted to make the birthday bear set. So these are the birthday bears. You get all the pieces in here to make a regular bear or a polar bear if you want to. And then you also have pieces to make a panda bear. And aren't they just so cute? And then you have sentiment strips to do let's party and happy birthday. And for the accessories, we added a little present and a birthday hat to really bring your celebrations or birthdays to life. And here those bears are on your A2 size card. How cute are they? I absolutely love it. And again, a really great size for your A2 size cards. So as always, when you get one of my die sets with Spellbinders, the dies will actually come on this vellum-like sheet, which make them really easy to go in and pull off the pieces from the adhesive without ripping your cardstock or anything sticking to your dies. And all of the dies come detabbed and separated from each other and nice and smooth on the edges. So you don't have to go in with a wire cutter or anything and have metal pieces flying all over. I love that they did that for your safety and also because you can pull these off and get right into crafting with them. All right, and then I take all of my dies and I put them on these Stampin' Storage magnetic sheets. I love these because they have chipboard on the back, so they're really nice and sturdy and none of your dies are going to fall off of them. But they got a little bit of a bend in them, so they're really easy to pull your dies off and put them right back on. I'll have these sheets linked down below in case you guys are interested. But what I wanted to point out with all 3 of these sets is the banners are different in each one, but all of the sentiments are interchangeable in between the different types of banners. So if you have all 3 sets, you have lots of sentiments and you can interchange them between any of the banners and any of the sets. And also with the accessories, we made it so that these party hats are going to fit on anyone, that graduation cap will fit on anyone, the envelope you can put in anyone's hand, so it's really versatile and you can use whichever animal you want with whatever accessories in the set that we created. So again, if you have all 3, you got pretty much everything to cover all the holidays and every different type of animal to create. Alright, so let's start off by putting together the Darling Dog. I've cut out all of the little pieces and put this in a craft stacks beforehand. I love these craft stacks containers because it helps me pre-die cut and keep my die cut separate, and they've got little lids so everything stays nice and together. I use these craft stacks containers all the time when I'm die cutting. To add a slight bit of dimension to my characters, I'll go in with a little detail blending brush and some Stellar ink. Here I'm using the color Weeping Willow, and I'm just going to bring this on either side of the animal, just like this. It's super easy to do. And this is going to make the animal look more round. If you leave the center lighter, it makes it look like it's closest to us, and then you shade the 2 sides. And I'll do the same thing by adding some shading down to his head as well. And for the lighter tan pieces, you'll just find a color that's pretty similar, but a little bit darker than that. So here I'm using a little bit of cookie dough and just going in and adding some shading to like one end of the piece. All right, then let's go in and glue things together. I'm starting off with this little chest piece here. and I'm going to glue this right down onto the dog. Then I'll add a little bit of glue on the back of the snout, and you'll notice there's little lines all over the face. You're just going to follow those lines like a puzzle piece, and that's going to easily put these together. Then we can add the little black mouth piece down. I find a little pick and stick tool like this one from scrapbook.com is handy for these super little pieces. Then there's a little etching for the tongue, so we can glue that right down. Same thing, add some glue into the etching for the nose and glue it right down. Then you can glue the black base layer of the eyes. There's little markings for them, and there's a little white layer you can glue right on top. For these ears, you have the top piece that goes right on top, and then there's these little inside ear pieces that fit right like a puzzle and go right in there along the etched lines. Then you'll notice there's little holes for the eyebrows, so add some glue onto the back here, and use these little tan half circles to add right behind the eyebrows. And then on the front, if you want to, you can add a little tuft of fur to the top of its head. So I cut this out in that same little tan color, and I'm gonna add that right to the top. And there's little etched lines on its neck where this should kind of fall in place, how far it should go down, so you can glue it right down onto there. Then we can glue the collar right below the head. And for the collar tag, I glued together this little heart tag, but there's also a star in the set, and you can glue that right to the end of that collar. His paws have little holes in them, so you can add some glue to the back, and then you can add those tan paws right to the back. Now to finish him off one step further, I want to add that little heart headband to him. So I'm adding a little bit of glue on the bottom of that headband and tucking it behind his head, and add the little hearts right down. And oh my gosh, how adorable is that little heart headband accessory? I think it's just so cute. So let's finish this guy off into a card. I'm using that background that we blended with the puffy hearts, but now we need a sentiment from the set. So we'll go into that dog set, we'll grab out the banner, and then grab out the I love you insert. And like I said, any sentiment is interchangeable in between these sets. So again, with these inserts, you place it blade side down, then we'll take this design side down right inside and make sure it lines up evenly with the border. And then we'll go in with a little bit of mint tape to hold this in place while we run it through our die cutting machine. For this, we'll cut it out of this deep maroon color in our Platinum Scout, and we'll run it right through and stare at each other awkwardly as we die cut this out. And you have yourself the perfect sentiment strip. And we're gonna cut this out one more time, just this frame, using another piece of cardstock. This time I'm using a lighter red color because I want it to pop, and I'll run this right back through my die cutting machine. I couldn't even see if I grabbed the right cardstock here because all I see is complete and total red. For all I know, I could be die cutting a piece of white cardstock over here. And all you need to do is add a little bit of glue. I make sure to cover all of the letters. And then you can stack these on top of each other super easily and just pinch the sides with your fingers to make sure that everything is nice and lined up. I gotta take these off now to finish the project and make sure I'm seeing the right colors. Now this background is just a little bit busy like this, and whenever I notice that, I like to go in with the essential stylish ovals or any sort of frame die set like this. And anytime anything's a little bit too busy, I like to go in with Vellum. This is like my secret weapon, and we'll run this right through our die cutting machine and adhere them right down to our vellum. And then I'll add that dog kind of popping out from behind that banner. That's why I love these banners, because they're the perfect size for your little animals to be popping out of and using them as a grounding place. Then I'll adhere that front and center onto my card. And here's a closer look at that finished project. The Puffy Hearts embossing folder and stencils are so colorful and playful. They really work nicely with these hugger images, and this darling dog to finish it off is so adorable. I love just how easy it is to put together to get this fun and playful dog image. And again, it makes for really quick and easy cards because it's a nice big focal point. I can't wait to send this one out. All right, next let me show you how easy it is to put the cat together. So here I've cut out all the pieces to create a little black cat, but the rest are very similar. All you do different is add stripes or spots if your cat has those. Let's start off by adding the cat's head to the body. There's a little etched line that you can see very clearly, and you just line it up right on top of there and glue it together. Then you want to add the whiskers to the snout before you add the snout down to the body. So you're just going to take the whiskers, add glue to that back piece, and line it right up with the snout. Then you can easily glue the snout down to the body, and there's a little line for you to line it up easily. Then you can add down the nose and the mouth. And again, they make it really easy by adding a little line where you can add the tongue in. Then you'll add the black base of the eyes down, and then there's a top layer which you can cut out in whatever color you want to add to the top of the eyes for more detail. Then we'll glue down the ears with pink. And then there's little holes in the paws, so you can add some glue right behind them. And then add these little pink circles into place to cover up the paws. Once everything's all done, the cat should look like this. Now, of course, there's other things like stripes and spots to add to your cats, but there's also like little pieces like this, like a little scruff you can add to the side of his face. To do that, I'm gonna do it on the little black cat. You're just gonna add some glue down and then kind of place it right down into it. I'm gonna add that right behind its whiskers for even some more added dimension. And we'll do that on both sides. And then there's this like little tuft of hair you can add to the top of their head too, which I think is so cute. So I've cut that out in black and then put it right into that glue on the back side. How cute is that? Those little pieces really add some great personality to the cat. Then lastly, let me show you just how easy it is to put together the bear. And today we'll be putting together the little panda bear. So to start this guy out, I've cut some of the pieces out of a white cardstock, and to do some shading, I want to use a little bit of light gray all around the edges. So I'll just go in using Woof and one of the little detail blending brushes and just bring this color around the edge. You'll want to do it pretty lightly, but just like before, we're just adding it around the edge to make the image look rounder and leave the center lighter. And I'll do the same thing right around his face. Just go in with a little bit of that light gray color and blend it all the way around. All right, then let's start gluing things together. I'm gonna start off with the panda's hands. And for the panda, there's this little extra strip of black cardstock. For the regular bear, you'll skip this, but you'll cut that out in black and adhere it right down onto the bear's body and turns it into a panda. Once we've added that down, you can add some glue to the bottom of his head and glue the head right down to the body. Now you just need to use the eyeballs for the regular bear, but again, for the panda, there's these little extra black pieces and you're just going to line those right up with the eyebrows beneath it and place it so that it's right around the etched line for the eye. Again, just line it up with the eyebrow and it should line up perfectly. Then you'll add the black eyeballs right into those open areas. And then I'll go in with the top white of the eyes and adhere those right on top. Then I'll glue the mouth in place and the nose, and then you can line up his little tongue right on top. Now the ears look a little weird, but you're gonna add glue down and there's a little etched line where you're gonna easily line up the lighter gray color. Then you'll take this bottom portion and add some glue to it, and then you're gonna stick it right underneath his head, and it kind of lines up with those little hairs right there. And we'll go in and place those on both sides. Then again, his paws have little holes in them, so you'll add some glue onto the back, and then add the little circles in pink onto the back side. And there you go, you've created the absolutely adorable little panda bear. I love it. And of course, you can follow pretty much the same steps for the bear, you just won't do the black stripe on the arms or the eyes. The other bear also has just a little snout you can add to his face for even a little bit more character. And that's how you put together all of the animals from the Big Hugs collection super easily. And of course, in future videos, I'll make even more cards with them because we can really continue crafting all year round with them since there's so many different accessories for different seasons and holidays. All right, you guys, thank you so much for stopping by and crafting with me. Be sure to give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment down below letting me know which card was your favorite. Also down there is a full supplies list to everything that I used, and using those links helps support me, so I really appreciate it. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Bye guys.